I'm using ballpoint pens to hand draw an entire Minecraft texture pack, and in the newest version I added most copper textures. Additionally, I did update the texture pack to version 26.1. This new version is now public on Modrinth, Curseforge and Planet Minecraft. Already in the previous version, I added one copper texture with all oxidation states, for each of which I chose to deviate more and more from the pixel grid and choose a more scribbly shading style. Most of you seemed to really like that approach and recommended to go even more scribbly and less restricted for the oxidized versions. Keeping that in mind, I tried making a very clean, a very scribbly and two roughly equally different versions between them. That was actually surprisingly difficult. For the default version, I tried to stick to the grid as best as I could and shaded the texture with a bunch of distinct fine lines. I tried to still stick to the grid for the exposed version, but tried to make the lines a bit more curvy. Additionally, I shaded it still with mostly distinct lines, although some lines connect and aren't that parallel anymore. The weathered version doesn't really have distinct lines in the shading anymore, and I slightly moved away from the strict pixel grid. And finally, the oxidized version does only roughly follow the grid, has basically continuous lines in the shading, and the scribbles even go over the line edges. Also, copper textures in Minecraft, especially the non-oxidized version, has this shining line through it. And while I didn't want to copy that line pixel by pixel, I sort of tried to stick to diagonal shading and sort of add darker spots. Anyway, I imported the textures into the game and I was a little bit disappointed. I mean, I don't think the textures look bad, I think they actually look quite nice, but the difference between the normal and the oxidized version is very subtle. They almost look the same. I mean, I always knew that from further away they would look the same, because without color there can't be achieved that much contrast, but even close up they look quite similar. I guess I could try to make the textures even more scribbly, but on paper they already look quite distinct, so I think that would only make a slight difference too. Maybe I should differentiate the oxidation states in a different way, but I'll keep it like this for now. Also, I completely forgot to add the different states for the copper bulb. I'll add the rest of those in the next version. Up until now, this texture pack was for version 1.21.5, and I actually planned to more or less finish that version before moving on to newer versions, but I can't really make a video about copper textures without adding copper chests or the copper golem. Therefore, I upgraded the version to 26.1. Actually, this version isn't completely backwards compatible to 1.21.5 because some entity textures now have their own folders instead of just lying around there, and some environment textures have been moved and split up. Regardless, it's still mostly compatible. It should be compatible with version 1.21.11 and above. Then I added copper chests and the copper golem. Adding chests is always a little bit annoying because for the double chest, the left and the right part is split in a different texture file. If I want the end result to be clean, I need to look at both textures, draw them as a merged texture and then split it up again. Especially drawing everything 4 times was quite some effort, but it's done now. I did make myself life a little bit easier when it came to drawing the copper golem. I only drew like half of the textures since I just mirrored the arms and the legs, saving some time there. I actually like a lot how the copper golem turned out. I think the differences between the oxidation states are more clearly visible here, and I do really like how entities look in my texture pack. I feel like the movement really adds a lot too. Copper golems do already have such cute animations. That's basically all the textures I added. Since someone in the comments asked for a tutorial on how to make texture packs and I never really mentioned it, I thought I could make sort of a quick tutorial part of this video. My approach might definitely not be the best approach, and I'm sure there are tutorials out there, but this is my approach. To create your own texture pack, you basically need a folder containing 3 items: a pack.mc meta file describing your pack, a pack.png file which is your icon, and an assets folder which contains the textures. The .mc meta file is basically a JSON file containing a description of the pack, along with some information about the main version and compatible versions of the pack. A list with numbers of the versions can be found on the Minecraft Wiki. Actually, the Minecraft Wiki is a great source when it comes to making texture packs. It has all the details you need, and actually I should probably learn more about resource packs from there myself too. In the assets folder, you want to have all your change textures. Since I have no idea how actually the files are named and structured, we can just use a default texture pack and replace the texture. I think you can download default texture packs online, but what I usually do is I open my Minecraft installation folder, search for the correct version, and then you can open the .jar version file with an archive manager. Basically, the assets folder there is what you want in your texture pack. You only need the files you actually changed though, and the corresponding .mc meta files. What I do is I have one folder with all the files I need to change, and then I replace the files I want to change there, and then copy them to the texture pack I actually want to release. When I'm done with all of that, I can just add the free items in the root texture pack folder and add them to a .zip file. This is then your texture pack, which you can import in Minecraft. I don't think I'm really a tutorial person because I tend to forget to explain things, which I'm just very used to do, but I hope this at least gives you a rough idea of it. That's basically all for this video. If you want to try out the newest version of this pack, links to Modrinth, Curseforge and so on are in the description. Thanks for watching. Also, I ran out of the ballpoint pens I have previously been using, so I'm using this brand now. Initially, I did prefer the other ones. It felt a little bit different to use, and it had a slightly different color too. But what I like about these ones is that you can literally watch how they're slowly draining. Like when I do art for like half a day, I can see the ink go down 1 or 2 centimeters. Also, this is how many ballpoint pens I've used so far. I kind of want to build something with them, but I'm not really sure what I could do with them. Anyway, that's it with the video, so bye, see you next time.